All right, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Art with Errol podcast. And this is our Monday check-in. All right. We back, everybody. It's Monday. And I got to say, man, the weeks have been flying by. It has been a crazy year. And, things haven't really kind of balanced out yet. We've been on this struggle bus for quite a while now, and we're trying to get there. But I'm your host, Errol, and this is Art with Errol, and I have, two YouTube channels now that we've gotten rid of the podcasting channel. So we are focusing on the Art with Errol gaming channel and the Art with Errol channel, where we're going to have our artwork and podcast. So that's where we're at. And today we're talking a little bit about, current goals. We looking at, we would like to get to 500 subscribers on both our YouTube channels. And, I would like to also up the Twitch channel, but, it's so hard to grow on Twitch, and I don't really know how you captivate the audience on Twitch. Seems like you get one or two people watching, they don't ever say anything, so interactions are very low all the time. I just got to keep focusing on my YouTube channel, which is fine. So we're looking at it. One of the things I like to say, we do have 268 subscribers on our gaming channel, which is Art with Errol Gaming. And on Art with Errol, we have 377 subscribers. So we are creeping up to the 500 subscriber mark. It's just been slow growing for me. And, it's about content. And, I know this is the honest truth. I have to look at what I'm doing and, the quality. I mean, I make mediocre kind of content. That's the way I kind of see it. I'm not that top-notch, Mr. Beast kind of stuff. That's, I'm not there. But, I think I make at least mid-range level content, at least in my eyes, And, the thing about it is it's not magic getting to, like, people and, making them want to be a part of your channel. It's not a magic thing. It's about being consistent and, making at least decent quality content, and that's a struggle. It's a struggle because time is always limited, and I gotta look at it. How do I make the most out of my time? And lately I haven't been able to, and that's just mainly because of life events. Life events been happening this year, which has been causing us issues getting to where we want to on this journey. And it's about getting back to our consistent uploads, of at least one per channel. That would be nice, but at least a couple times a week with each channel would be great. And I've been trying to, like, this year push more on the art side, but I just run out of time to do like art and gaming in the same day. It's just not. I have to dedicate a day for like game streaming and then have like just videos I can make for gaming. So we've been trying to work a balancing act, and I'm just not hitting the mark yet. So I think, I just need more time to get it all down. But, I think I can get there. And that's the truth. We haven't been consistent. We need to get back to being more consistent with everything. And I really need to push myself to get back on track. That's what it is. I need to keep showing up, and I need to keep trying. I can't, I've let myself digress, I guess, a little bit, or regress or something. I don't know what you would call it. But yeah, strategies, I think. So we can talk some strategies. Tuesday is usually a wash for me, man. Tuesday is a day I usually can't get anything done. Just because of the time of which the after school activities for my kids happen. It's a day I have to count out. So I got to figure out how to maximize Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Got to try to figure out how to maximize those days. At least I can know that I can make those shorts every day. At least Monday through Friday, I can have some nice little shorts. I can always do that. Sometimes with the topics that we do for our shorts, they're hit or miss. I would like to definitely level that up as well, getting better. Which I think I have been getting better. Because for the most part, that's the one thing I've been pretty consistent on doing is the shorts. This weekend I took a break, because I had a lot of stuff going on. But we did come this morning where we talked about, just, playing Call of Duty, Warzone, and, I really wasn't into it. And, looking forward to Crimson Desert, so that was I think a decent short. I did have to chop it up, take out some little dead space in it to make it fit into the 3 minutes, but for the most part, it was 3 minutes, which I'm gonna become the 3-minute king, the shorts 3-minute king, yo. I'm going to get it down to a science where I can just stop at 3 minutes and then I'll be on, yo. That's what. Anyway, yeah. So strategies, we got to maximize our time for Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's usually the time I get to make content. The weekend, if I get up before my kids are up, get up before my wife's up, I can make a short in that morning, and I can push a gaming short out. But I usually can't do live streaming because we got activities going on the weekends. On top of that, we clean the house on Saturday. We, Sunday we got church. We got, sometimes we have activities on Sunday, and it's mostly family time. So I get a little bit of gaming time usually. Not all the time, but maybe Saturday or sometimes Sunday or whatever. This weekend I did Saturday and Sunday because I was trying out Warzone, the new Black Ops Warzone. I was trying it out, just trying to get my thoughts around it, and so I could have that short for Monday. So I did get like about 3 hours or 4 each day or something like that. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to at least get an opinion about what I thought about it, so at least I did that. I got some game time in on it, wasn't much, but I got some game time in it. So we gotta maximize our time, y'all. The morning time, I usually make my 3 minutes, my 3-minute short before I go to work, so I nail that down as fast as I can, and in the evening time, we're trying to focus on art for Monday. If I can get it done, which, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any drawing done or painting done today. So we're looking at Wednesday and Thursday painting, and then Friday is going to be our gaming day. I think that's the way I got to run it. I would like to do like a combination of the two, but the setup process is just not feasible, because when I finish doing a little painting, if I do 30 minutes of painting or whatever, right, I gotta tear down everything, put everything back. I've got to upload the video to YouTube, right? So that has to happen after streaming it, and then you gotta set up for gaming. I just don't have enough time to do both. And I wanted to try to do both. If I had like a way to set up and have it stationary for like the art or something like that, that would be great. But I don't. So I gotta flip-flop the two and put things away. It's just too much to handle. So I think we gotta dedicate days to do things. And I would rather dedicate the days Wednesday and Thursday for art, and then do one day of gaming. I think that's feasible. And then Monday is just our podcasting day. And if I can fit in artwork that day, we'll fit it in. I think that's the way I need to go with it. And at least, we know we're getting a gaming short every day during the week. So at least that's one video there. And if we get a game stream on Friday, that would be great. And then for the art channel, at least we can get, the live stream on Twitch, and then upload the video to YouTube on Wednesday and Thursday, and possibly Mondays if I have enough time. So that could be at least 3 videos, approximately 3 videos a week, 2 to 3 videos, and that's the only way I can really maximize my time, I think, for now. Just in current life situations, that's the best I'm going to be able to do. So that's just my strategy going forward, and hopefully we can push that, and hopefully this will gain, some traction. I don't know. We're just trying the best we can with the time we have available. So, yeah, definitely I would like to get more drawing sessions in, but, I'm not always able to do that, Now that I got a new iPad, I can probably do some maybe sketches on that too. Maybe, I don't know. I'll try to figure something else out if I need to. If I want to try to up the videos, I don't know how else to do it other than that though. Doing some more time lapse stuff maybe on the iPad. I don't know. Maybe I can come up with something. But yeah, I would definitely like to do more shorts and stuff on the main channel, which is the art channel. So, if I could get some more done, some kind of way fit that in, that would be great. But I think I'll be stretching myself thin as it is. At least with the podcast, that's going down on the podcast is going down on the Art with Errol channel. So Monday we know we got a podcast on there. And then, at least Wednesday and Thursday for sure, we're going to have, some painting or drawing or whatever it is, which we'll be painting the Jimi Hendrix painting on Wednesday. So that's where we're going this week. A lot to take in, y'all. A lot to take in. So, math, I mean, one out of every 100 viewers, basically subscribe. That's basically, a general concept, I guess. Every 10,000 views, you can get approximately 100 subscribers. So, how do you get closer to that? If you could pump out content, if you're able to, and you don't have a family with kids and a job and all that stuff, and you can pump out content like 2-3 times a day, I'm sure you could hit those numbers. For me, it's going to be a lot harder to hit the numbers unless I can find extra time to edit and make more shorts and stuff. So more content you can do, obviously, the more chances you have of being discovered. And posting it at various times during the day, it'll give you more opportunities. But like I said, I can't fit that in to my schedule. I wish I could, but I can't. So as always, I like to invite, if you're new, checking me out, whatever, man, just join the journey. We're on this ride, we're trying to figure it out. I think a lot of people that have help, obviously they can reach more people if you have someone that can edit for you and do all the stuff, because you have more, they can take whatever you make and chop it up and make those shorts and all the stuff to help you grow, which I would say Opus Clip would be good, but it's not. I don't like how the word thing works, because it sometimes doesn't capture what you say correctly, and you can't edit it unless you're paying for it, so that sucks. So those programs are really not that great unless you can turn off the words, and add it in yourself. But that's just my thoughts on those AI video editing things. I mean, they do capture good moments so sometimes, but a lot of times I'll notice like errors in like the words that pop up or whatever. So it's not the best. So yes, we would like to get to 500 subscribers on both channels, because that potentially unlocks your ability to your eligibility to get to get the memberships, the super chats, the shopping, all that stuff. If you get to 500 subscribers, you have the opportunity, because then all you have to do is get to the 3,000 hours, which I hope if you have 500, you're getting close to the 3,000 hours, or hitting the 3,000 hours, which is probably a challenge in itself. And obviously more content you make, hopefully if they're watching, you can get there. I would assume YouTube came up with this formula saying that you can hit with 500 subscribers 3,000 hours as long as people are watching, or at least most of them. Hopefully it's not saying that you got to have all 500 people watching everything you make. If that's the case, then they need to lower this watch time, because that's an impossible reach. It should be feasible if like half of your numbers watched, then you can hit that number or something. But if it's not, then they should change that formula. I don't know how all that works. I do know when I look at like the gaming channel, which I post the most on, when I look at the hours on there, like now it's saying I only have 584, and I've been posting a lot less, and of the 3,000 hours, but we're not even at 500 subscribers. So, you definitely need a lot more subscribers to hit that 3,000 hours. So I think that formula is a little high, which sucks, and that allows you to get the super chats, the memberships, and the shopping, which all that's locked behind that wall. But is what it is. We just gotta try to keep pushing to get there, man, and upping our content quality. I try to make the content quality as best I can, but I think you get better over time, and that's the thing. We gotta keep working to get better. It's always when I'm streaming from this profile, do I see drop frames? I don't understand that. But anyway, let's so our goal is 500. If we can get there, that'll be wonderful. If we could even get some more on our Twitch channel, that would be awesome too, because this is where I'm doing most of the streaming now. That would be nice as well if we can get people to follow, because it's not subscribe, it's follow on there, right? So I mean, we're working hard to build our social media platforms, but like I said, it's been a struggle bus, and we lost a lot of steam after stuff that happened. If you want to go back and look at what happened, you can go back and look at what happened. Got like a couple podcasts talking about it. I'm kind of done talking about it again, but we just want to bounce back from this point on. And the bounce back has been a struggle in itself to get back to what we was doing. So I had big goals and aspirations for this year, but a lot of that was shattered. And now I'm just trying to get back to where I was, like at least being consistent. If we can get back on that level of like at least putting out the content that we want to put out, and if we can get more, that's where I kind of want to get to, and that's my train of thought of what I've been thinking. And I think if we can get back to being consistent, that'd be great. You know, get back to being on a schedule and not having this flimsy schedule that I kind of fell back into, which doesn't work. It doesn't help growth. It doesn't help anything, because if you're not putting out content for people to watch, then they stop watching. That just it is what it is. It is what it is. If you're not putting out the content, then nobody's watching, because there's nothing there for them to see. So, my encouragement to you, if you have a channel and you're trying to grow it, you got to be able to at least consistently put out content. At least hold consistent to one thing and then try to add more later. And that's what I want to get back to, just getting back to that consistency of what we had, because we was doing really good, man. We was. I look at, like the gaming channel, for instance, right? Because this is the one I've posted the most to, with the shorts every day. So 19 plus subscribers in the last 28 days. If I go over to my art channel, 2 plus in the last 28 days. So you see, the difference is the amount of content. I post way more content on that gaming channel than I've been posting on the art channel, which, the more content you have, the more opportunities you can be seen by people. And it don't have to be, like I said, the top level content. You need to be, halfway decent. I think, it would be nice if you could do like a Mr. Beast style video, but unless you have the time to sit there and edit and write your script and get it flawless and and do all that stuff, when you don't have a team of people working with you to help you make that kind of content, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get that level of video content on your own. That's a team effort that goes into the type of content he was producing or is producing, whatever. And not having a team, you gotta do the best you can as the writer, the person on the camera, the person editing it, because you're all those things. The person uploading, the person promoting it. If you're not tweeting it or doing all this stuff or engaging on all the platforms, then that's where your growth stagnates. When you have a team of people that can, literally help you do all those things, and you just got to be the creator, there's a different level of content that you can put out, when you have help. Most folks that become successful have a team, and I'm just not there yet. So, I realized I didn't take this thing off here. This has been on there the whole time. I can't believe this has been on there this whole time. All right. Yeah, so I'm just, venting and thinking and talking out loud, y'all. We have our goal. I would like to hit 500 this year. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. If I can get more consistent with my content and we can produce at least decent level content, I think we can get there. That's my thought process. Basically you get one subscriber out of every 100 people that view your stuff. And that's kind of crazy, right? that's probably accurate. And we can look at, like, if we need to. I could look at like my shorts, right, on my gaming channel. I did a short, about the De Novo thing, right? 1,500 views, right? 1,535. That was the total views on that, right? 94% was like versus dislike, That's a pretty good ratio, 3 comments, and this is the thing. Out of that 1,000, how many people actually subscribed? I mean? It had to be at least a couple, So, because if I got 19 in the last 28 days, I would say this formula is kind of close. Is it accurate, 100% accurate? No. But this is just a thought process you can hold in your head that out of every 100 views, you might get 1 subscriber. You know what I mean? If you think of it like that, that's kind of the odds. Is it 100% accurate? No, probably not. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it's a good way to think about it. Every 100 views I get, I might get 1 subscriber. If you think of it like that, that makes you want to work harder too. It's like lotto chances. You got to work harder at it. You got to work harder at it to get there, man. And like I said, this podcast has always been me more kind of venting and just talking things out. And I think at most, it helps me, think about things, being able to say things out loud, sometimes, it helps, it's like a venting session to yourself, kind of, you just need to kind of hear yourself say it, to be like, dang, out of 100 views, I might get 1 subscriber. It's crazy to think like that, I guess. But, I think it'll push yourself to, if you like kind of talk about things and, think about strategies that can go forward, And I'm always, like I said, I'm always open to suggestions on how, but we got to look at like our time, how much time do we have? You work an 8-hour shift, you still got to do your family responsibilities, household responsibilities, all that stuff. How do you fit in the content? How do you fit in making content, editing the content, and posting it? And then, hopefully, engaging with anybody that, jumps on there, because those are all things you have to do. How do you do it? Well, I got a plan laid out. Like I said, we got a plan laid out, and that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna stick to this schedule, and we're gonna try for next week as well to hit hard on our schedule. We're getting a lot of drop frames. I gotta figure out what's going on with OBS, man. Is there an update that I need on this thing? I'm just seeing drop frames and I don't understand it. But I'm not doing anything work intensive on the computer, so it must be the internet, man. But how do we, going back to our topic, how do we move forward? Well, this is our way forward for our channel, Art with Errol. We're going to continue streaming on Twitch. We're going to record the stuff and post it to YouTube. And we're going to do our podcast every Monday, which is this is one thing I've been consistent with. At least the podcast has been pretty consistent. We missed some days because of the life events that happen. But for the most part, we've been fairly consistent with the podcast. We've been fairly consistent with the gaming channel shorts that we've been doing. And I think, you know, the art, as far, we've been getting about 2 days of artwork each, at least 2 to 3 days, some weeks. So if we can still stick to that and, get the podcast every Wednesday and Thursday, do the artwork, and then Friday have some game stream time, that will be wonderful. If I can get back to doing that, I think we can have some more success, and I'm going to strive for this week and next week to pull that off. We're already 1 up, right? We're already 1 up. We did our short this morning. We're getting the podcast done now, and on Wednesday I should have no problem getting at least 30 to 40 minutes of painting in for our Jimi Hendrix painting, and then that should hopefully be Thursday and Friday good, and then Friday hopefully I can get at least an hour or two of gaming in on Crimson Desert. I want to preload it tomorrow because I think the 17th. Let me open up Steam. I think on the 17th you can preload it, right? So, and I'm just gonna be playing that, man, every Friday. We'll just be playing Crimson Desert every Friday. I would like to play it on the weekends, but like I said, it's family time on the weekends. That's I can't really stream. It'd be too loud. My setup's in the living room. It's not like I got my own room for my computer and games and stuff. I don't. We in the open, so the kids will be in there. It'd be loud and all that, so we can't do that. So let's look at it, man. I thought it said where is it? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to find it on Steam. I've opened up Steam. I'm in my life. You know what? I could show. Well, never mind. We don't need to show it. It's all good. Yeah, there it is. Crimson Dead. Okay. So, does it have on here? I thought it had it on here when you can preload it. I think it's the 17th. If I'm not correct, I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. But coming out March 19th, which is actually Thursday. I thought that was Friday, but it's Thursday, right? So we should be able to preload it. We should be able to, oh, here it is. Preload notice. There it is. Okay, here's the preload notice. I found it, y'all. Give me a second. We'll see. So it says preload on March 17th. And that's 6 p.m. I guess you can start at 6 p.m. New York time. In Los Angeles, if you're over on the other side, it's 3 p.m. on the 17th. So 6 p.m. I should be able to start preloading it, which would be great. I want to get it preloaded. That way Friday comes, we can just dive right in, y'all. So that will be nice. We'll get the game preloaded. I don't need this up anymore. We're just kind of winging the rest of this podcast. If you're hanging in with me, I appreciate you. Don't forget to follow on Twitch. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music, please follow and join us on Twitch. Join us on YouTube. Become a part of the Artistry Society. Yeah, I think we got good ideas for our way forward, y'all. And granted, I'm like I said, I make more mediocre kind of content. I'm trying my best to push the envelope on what I can do alone. And I hope you join me for the ride. And I think that's all I got. That's all I really wanted to talk about today, man. We're still trying to get back on track, man. We really are. It's been a hard hit this year, and a lot of stuff unexpectedly happened this year. So I push forward to get back where we were, and then hopefully get, on top. We want to keep clawing our way up out of this hole and get back on track, man. So till next time, man, you know what to do. I'm out of here.